28 days later opens with a group of animal rights activists storming a laboratory to free chimpanzees that have been captured and experimented on. One of the lab scientists warns the activists not to release the chimps as they have been infected with something known as the rage virus, but the activists refuse to listen. A rabid chimp then bites one of the activists, infecting them with rage, causing the host to become uncontrollably aggressive and become consumed with the simple desire of slaughtering any uninfected it can come in contact with. The highly contagious blood-borne virus then quickly spreads throughout all of Great Britain, causing all of society to collapse. 28 days later, a man named Jim wakes up from a coma, having been struck by a car before the spread of the rage virus. Jim, unaware of the carnage that has happened to the world while he was in a coma, is completely confused by his desolate surroundings. Eventually, he stumbles upon a group of infected humans who chase him through the streets of London, where he is fortunately saved by a pair of survivors, Selena and Mark, who explain to Jim how the rage virus works. Any contact with an infected's blood or saliva will pass on the infection in a matter of seconds, with death being the only way to stop the spread. Jim then convinces his new companions to come with him to his family home, where he tragically discovers both his mother and father are dead. As Jim lights a candle in memory of them, he inadvertently attracts a horde of infected, who storm into the house and attack the survivors. As Jim and his new allies fend off the attackers, Mark is bitten, prompting Selena to quickly kill him before the infection spreads. Jim and Selena then meet a father and daughter named Frank and Hannah, who welcome them into their home. Despite seemingly being safe from the infected, Frank is determined to reach a military blockade he heard about on the radio that promises food protection and a potential cure for the rage virus. And so, Jim, Selena, Frank, and Hannah all travel together in search of the salvation of the military, evading infected and bonding as a makeshift family along the way. Upon reaching the blockade and discovering it has been deserted, a distraught Frank kicks a gate in frustration, unaware that a dead infected is perched on top, sending a drop of blood falling directly into Frank's eye. As Frank turns, the military arrives, putting him down and taking in Jim, Selena, and Hannah. The soldiers bring the trio to a heavily fortified mansion compound where they meet the unit's leader, Major Henry West. West warmly welcomes them, giving them beds, showers, warm food, and even introducing them to their own captured infected to experiment on, Private Mailer. Unfortunately, West then reveals to Jim his true intentions were to lure women to the compound as a reward for his soldiers to use as their own sex slaves. Disgusted by this, Jim and a soldier named Farrell rebuke West and his loyal minions. And so West orders both of their deaths. As Farrell is killed, Jim manages to escape, racing back to the mansion to rescue Selena and Hannah. Jim frees Maylard to infect the other soldiers, then brutally murders another soldier before he can assault Selena. At first, Selena is scared that Jim's violent rampage is a sign that he has been infected by the rage virus, but upon realizing he is simply there to save her, they embrace with a kiss. As Jim, Selena, and Hannah flee, West attempts to stop them, shooting Jim in the stomach. Fortunately, Mailer attacks West, killing him and allowing the others to escape. In the end, another 28 days pass, and Jim is recovering from his wounds at a remote cottage. When a plane passes by overhead, he joins Selena and Hannah in unfurling a massive banner to catch the plane's attention, in the hopes of being rescued and taken away from Great Britain and its deadly infected inhabitants. You know, living in a zombie apocalypse seems pretty difficult, but that's nothing compared to the challenges of keeping your personal and private information safe and secure online. I mean, just look at this redacted report showing what information data brokers could be collecting from you. I'm talking your name, age, address, even the private information of your family, neighbors, and associates, all being sold by data brokers to potential scammers, spammers, and stalkers. This is super scary stuff, and now that my wife and I have just had our first child, I want to be as proactive as possible in protecting my family's online data. And that's where today's sponsor, Aura, comes in. Basically, if you've ever received a spam call or email, it's because a data broker has collected and sold your data. They can do this without your consent and profit billions of dollars selling your personal and private information to marketers, scammers, and even stalkers. While they're legally required to remove your information if asked, they can make this process confusing, difficult, and exhausting. But Aura takes care of the entire process for you, not only ensuring your data is removed from these sites, but stays gone for good. Maybe you're already using some other digital security service or VPN, but without Aura, that's like locking the front door but leaving the back door unlocked. With just one app, recap, Aura offers alerts if your personal information is found on the dark web, real-time fraud alerts for credit and banking, 24/7 identity theft monitoring, US-based around-the-clock support, plus a VPN, password manager, antivirus, and more. Plus, if anything ever does go wrong, Aura offers $5 million in identity theft insurance, plus they've got 24/7 US-based fraud experts. So try Aura for free for 14 days at aura.com/recap and chill. In those 14 days, Aura will get to work at scrubbing your personal data off of these data broker sites. I'm not leaving myself vulnerable, and you shouldn't either. So thanks to Aura for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the recap. The story continues in 28 weeks later. Married couple Don and Alice have been living in a secluded cabin with a group of survivors, with their only comfort coming from knowing that their children had been out of the country on a class trip when the rage virus first spread, meaning they were fortunately safe from the deadly carnage. When a young boy arrives at the cabin, he inadvertently attracts a swarm of infected, who quickly overwhelm the survivors. As Alice and the boy become surrounded by infected, the scared Don chooses to abandon his wife to instead flee for his own safety. 28 weeks later, the outbreak has been mostly eradicated, and the US military has been brought in to ensure the area remains secure, while letting the first wave of survivors return to a safe zone in London to get back to a semi-normal lifestyle. It is here that Don is finally reunited with his children Tammy and Andy, though he lies to them that he witnessed their mother's death and there was nothing he could do to save her. When Andy begins to fear that he will forget what his mother looked like, he and Tammy decide to sneak out of the safe zone to return to their old home to collect family photos. One of the snipers monitoring the area, Doyle, spots the escaping children and alerts his superiors to ensure their protection and safe return. Upon reaching their old home, Tammy and Andy shockingly discover that their mother Alice is there, alive, semi-coherent, but seemingly not infected. The military then arrives, rescuing the children, while apprehending Alice and quarantining her in a medical lab. There she is studied by Army Doctor Scarlet, who realizes that Alice has in fact been infected, but is somehow an asymptomatic carrier of the rage virus. Scarlet realizes that Alice's blood may hold the key to finally curing and fully eradicating the virus from existence. Unfortunately, Don secretly pays a visit to his wife, begging for her forgiveness for abandoning her. Unaware that Alice is infected, Don kisses her, passing on the virus to him and causing him to kill his wife as the first part of his violent rampage. Don begins slaughtering people within the safe zone, causing the virus to spread rapidly throughout the area. As the safe zone devolves into chaos, Scarlet becomes determined to protect Tammy and Andy, theorizing that like their mother, their blood may hold the key for a cure. Realizing there is no hope of containing the continued spread of the virus, the safe zone's commander Stone orders all of his soldiers to slaughter everyone on site, infected and survivors alike. Distraught by this command, Doyle decides to go rogue and abandon his post, helping Scarlet, Tammy, Andy, and a handful of other survivors escape both the infected and the pursuing military forces. As Stone orders a firebombing of the entire area, Doyle leads the other survivors to safety. Also surviving the blast is the infected Don, who continues to roam the abandoned London in search of his prey. Doyle eventually leads the survivors, which now just includes Scarlet, Tammy, Andy, and a stranger named Sam, to his pilot friend Flynn. But Flynn refuses to so directly disobey orders to rescue a group of survivors, instead insisting that only Doyle is allowed in his helicopter. As a group of infected arrive, a desperate Sam grabs onto Flynn's helicopter as he abandons the group. Flynn uses the helicopter blades to slaughter most of the infected, killing Sam in the process, but then abandons Doyle, Scarlet, and the children. Flynn tells Doyle to meet him for pickup at Wembley Stadium, but demands that he come alone. Instead, Doyle selflessly continues escorting the others, learning from Scarlet that the children may be the key to finding a cure. When the military arrive with nerve gas and flamethrowers to use against the infected, Doyle sacrifices himself to help the others escape. As Scarlet, Tammy, and Andy flee through the London Underground to reach the stadium, they are confronted by Don, who kills Scarlet and bites Andy. Naomie reluctantly kills her infected father to save her brother, who thankfully, like his mother, is an asymptomatic carrier, thereby resisting the effects of the virus. Tammy and Andy then reach Wembley Stadium, where they are rescued by the reluctant Flynn, who flies them to safety. Unfortunately, that safety is quickly threatened, as 28 days later, the infection has escaped London and begun to overtake Paris, France. The story continues in 28 years later. The rage virus has been eradicated from mainland Europe, and while the rest of the world continues on with their normal lives, the British Isles have been quarantined and blocked off from the rest of civilization, leaving small communities of survivors to live amongst the infected. One of those communities is based on Holy Island, which is separated from the infected by a causeway that becomes inaccessible at high tide. This community has developed its own culture throughout their years of quarantine, including forcing boys to take part in a coming-of-age journey on the mainland to hunt and kill an infected. One of the residents on Holy Island is Spike, a 12-year-old living with his scavenger father Jamie and his mother Isla, who has been left bedridden due to a mysterious illness that has impacted her mind. While Spike looks up to his father, he is frustrated by Jamie's seemingly hopeless outlook on Isla's condition. Feeling like Spike is now capable enough, Jamie decides to take his son to the mainland for the traditional hunt. There, the father and son find an infected that has been tied up and marked with the name Jimmy. Though Spike manages to make his first kill, the boy and his father are then pursued by a vicious band of infected, led by an alpha who has evolved to develop heightened strength and intelligence. Jamie and Spike race back to Holy Island, narrowly avoiding certain death at the alpha's hands. The community celebrates Spike's success with a debaucherous night of partying, where Spike watches his father embellish their journey, get drunk, and then cheat on Isla. Spike seeks comfort in a fellow citizen named Sam, who reveals that a former doctor named Kelson has been living on the mainland amongst the infected for years. Spike confronts his father over this revelation, demanding to know why Jamie never made any attempt to heal Isla. Jamie counters that on one of his past scavenging missions, he has witnessed Kelson burning human corpses, clearly having gone mad. But Spike refuses to give up hope for his mother, instead choosing to sneak the delirious and weak Isla off of Holy Island to venture through the infected and find Dr. Kelson in the hopes he can cure her. On their journey, Spike and Isla encounter a Swedish soldier named Eric, whose squad had accidentally crashed onto the mainland. Eric uses his military skills to protect the mother and son, while also revealing to Spike the modern pleasures of the outside world, like Amazon delivery, smartphones, and even plastic surgery. The trio eventually come across an infected woman who is pregnant and on the verge of giving birth. Instead of fleeing, Isla chooses to comfort the infected woman and help her deliver her baby. A concerned Eric kills the infected mother and demands that the baby also be killed, even though it shows no signs of infection. Before he can act further, Eric is decapitated by the Alpha. Spike and Isla take the baby and flee the Alpha before being rescued by Kelson, who uses darts to peacefully subdue the Alpha, whom he has dubbed Samson. The presumed crazy Dr. Kelson reveals himself to be a pacifist that has accepted the infected as their own species, who have evolved and developed their own cultures and community, however primitive or savage they may seem. Kelson also takes Spike and Isla to his bone temple, crafted from cleansed human bones as a monument to honor the concept of memento mori, a reminder that all men must die. Kelson then takes Eric's skull and adds it to the monument before examining Isla and tragically determining that she has terminal cancer. Spike is distraught by this revelation, but Kelson consoles him with the concept of memento amoris, a reminder to love. Isla accepts her fate, sharing a final loving moment with her son before being euthanized by Kelson. To honor his mother, Spike places her skull atop the bone temple. His mission complete, Spike is encouraged by Kelson to take the baby and return home. Instead, Spike has become disillusioned by his father and community's way of life, leaving behind the baby at Holy Island's gates with a note to Jamie, explaining that the baby has been named Isla after his mother and he will return home when he is ready. 28 days later, Spike has been living successfully on his own on the mainland, but after being attacked by a group of infected, he is saved at the last minute by a gang of tracksuit-wearing survivors known as the Jimmies. The leader of this gang is Jimmy Crystal, who 28 years earlier was saved as a young boy from a pack of infected by his father, who left him with nothing but a cross necklace. Jimmy has grown up in a world ravaged by infected, gaining survival instincts while holding on to his childhood obsessions, actions, going as far as modeling himself and his gang after real-life British icon Jimmy Savile. In real life, Jimmy Savile died in 2011, after which the beloved figure was exposed as one of the most prolific sex offenders in the United Kingdom, a fact that Jimmy Crystal would have no way of knowing in his life of quarantine. And so, as the film comes to a close, Spike is left in the hands of the Jimmys, the fate of his life and soul unknown. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and why not check out this recommended video while you're at it.